versus Hollywood sprang out of a reformation of Temple's general education curriculum, or Gen Ed curriculum. Gen Ed is essentially the shorthand for classes you have to take regardless of your major. Right? So it's the English classes, it's the math classes, and in Temple's case, historically, it was requiring 2 4-credit science classes. Now, as part of the politics over Gen Ed, they said, we want you to redo the science classes, and first of all, you can no longer require a science class that would be required for the major as a Gen Ed class. So if it's an introductory science class in physics or in chemistry, it's a normal introductory class, it will not serve the Gen Ed needs. We want you to customize your classes to people who are not planning to become scientists, to the non-science majors, because they complain about these science classes. Secondly, in the efforts to try and cut the number of credits required for general education down, they wanted to cut us from 2 science classes to 1 science class. And we kept saying, well, geez, it's not there's less science now than there was 30 years ago. It's less important to people's lives. Right. And we managed to hang on to the 2-class requirement by we had to accept 2 3-credit instead of 2 4-credit classes. And that meant a lot of the classes could not have laboratories. Right? And of course, many scientists feel very strongly that you have to have lab science as part of science, or it's not really a science class. And so the challenge for me was to design a class that was introductory geology for non-science majors. So you have people from history, biology, not biology, history, art. I've got a lot of theater majors. I've got majors in business communication. Most of them who are not very comfortable with science. Class that will interest them will still get them the science. So I want to get the hard science in there, and it also has to work within the 3-credit limitation. So these are the things I'm working with. So my class model, some of the goals that I've got for the class are that they get the scientific method, because 2 science classes, they're not going to get any other science. This is it. This is their whole science exposure. And many of them coming in with not that good science training from high school. Right? So very little science there. I want them to understand more than just some geology, something about science as a whole. I want them to realize that science is quantitative. It doesn't just pose questions and go, oh, yeah, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. We can do the calculation afterwards and find out whether it will work or it won't. I want them to be informed citizens, because let's face it, they're not going to become science majors. A few of them I might bonk on the head and drag to the side and say, you really want to be a geologist. You know, we make some conversions. But most of them are not going to become geology majors, alas. So I want them to at least be informed citizens, read the paper, understand what's going on. When a disaster like this strikes in Japan, do they understand what the stories are talking about? Can they separate the fact from the fiction? And then finally, I want to put the cool factor back into science. You know, you go to a science demonstration for elementary kids, and they love it. You can come in with a box of rocks, and they cluster around. Maybe they hit each other with them, but mostly they're just having fun with the rocks. You know, bring in some bugs, bring in anything. They love it, right? Somewhere between elementary school and high school, they get turned off to science. I think mainly middle school is the black hole for science. And science ceases to become cool. It's become something they're terrified of. And I want to at least have them leave my class thinking science is cool again. So those are my main educational goals. All right, so I start out by giving them an information card because I want to learn something about them. I'm really bad with names, and my class is typically 40, 45 students. I've capped at that because I do in-class activities, and I can't manage that in a large auditorium. All right, so I ask them a little bit about themselves. They tell me, give me your name, give me your Temple, what's your major, why are you interested in disasters, and what particular disaster do you care about? Is it volcanoes, is it earthquakes, is it landslides? And then something that's a little different about you that'll help me remember who you are. So, and then I put their pictures on the backs of every one of these cards, and I use them as flashcards for myself. So within a couple of weeks, I know them all, and I can pick on them individually. And I find that technique helps me a lot in working with the class. But here are some of the things that come back. Mostly things like this. Here's Jacqueline, she's a senior, she's a theater major, she's really interested in volcanoes, they've always grabbed her interests. I always want to know what was cool to learn about. I absolutely love acting, but public speaking scares the hell out of me. Okay, well, that's interesting. So I get a lot of interesting little tidbits about the students this way. Some of them only wear red, you know, some of them have 2 different colored shoes, but I also get some of these things. I like hurricanes because I have a friend whose family survived through Katrina. Science has always been my least favorite subject. That's the defining thing about her. That's what she put down. Mary is a theater major. I'm interested in earthquakes because I would like to have a better understanding of how they occur. I've always struggled with my science classes, but I'm hoping to do well. So again, the defining point, I'm afraid, is science. Aquila, junior, finance major, interested in tornadoes because of the movies I've seen. Ah, okay. I really dislike science, but I'm somehow looking forward to this class because it's not your typical science class. Okay, so these are the things that I'm seeing. They're coming in here. I've got a lot of baggage. So it's not just a matter of getting them interested in science. I've got to overcome their predisposition to hate science. And I would also throw math into that same category, right? Pull out a calculator and they run for the hills. Right? So the question is, how do you sneak that in here? So the real goal in using disaster films is to try and sugarcoat a little bit to make it go down a little more smoothly. You know, stick a little sugar so the vegetables taste better kind of thing. My general format is to try and avoid straight chalk and talk. And it's kind of ironic that I'm sort of doing a chalk and talk here, right? Because education has shown, pedagogy research has shown, it's not the best way to learn, right? It's not the best way to teach people. So what I try and do in my classes, you've got to get in some content. So I give what I call a mini lecture, typically in the order of 20 minutes. And even within 20 minutes, you start to see some of the heads, you know, because they had a long night or they've been working or who knows what. I then use a film clips in the middle and kind of perks them up. Right? I don't show full movies. A lot of them come in there thinking I'm going to show them disaster movies. We're going to watch movies all semester. No. Okay, it doesn't work that way. I'm going to show little clips that pose questions. And then afterwards, after I've shown a clip, I have an in-class activity to try and answer whether something in the movie was reasonable or not reasonable. And hopefully try and dispel whatever misconception Hollywood planted in their mind. So that's my general format. You know, it changes a little bit from class to class, but that's the general approach I'm using.